Welcome everyone to another episode of Pop Rant Radio, the podcast where two pop culture junkies discuss popular and sometimes not so popular culture. My name is Moss, I'm one of your hosts, and with me as always is my good friend and co-host, Eric. How are you today, sir?
Pretty good. You did a good job reading this time.
Thanks.
You didn't do this.
Right, stretching and
The Y from YMCA.
Yeah, I did that last time. I was just like stretching my arms out.
You do one of two. You either do this a lot or you kind of do the back stretch.
Yeah. I pop my back. Yeah, all the time.
I just sit here and watch you.
So today's topic is weird things that I do while we're recording.
Yes. So the other one is you like to point to things.
Does it offend you when I pick my nose?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
I've only caught you 3 times.
You want some?
Yeah, if you can put it over here on the side of the table, I'll get to them. I do love when you point things. Or what was the one episode where we were talking about the Force?
Yeah, X-Wing.
And you literally put your arm out like you're going to pick up the plastic X-Wing that's back there.
Hey man, you can hear the quality, okay? You can hear the action.
You just hear the mic just...
Listeners, let Eric know. You can hear the action. Hashtag hear the action. Start it.
That sounds terrible. It's like some kind of IMAX promotion.
Yeah. Hear the action.
Or the Omnimax. Have you been to the Omnimax?
I've never been to the Omnimax.
It's terrifying. The walkway to the seats is about 2 inches wide.
Ugh.
You have to shuffle. And if people are sitting, if you were in the middle, there's 30 people to get to it. You're clinging to the wall. You're like
Spider-Man.
Cliffhanger.
Or Batman in his shitty introduction in Batman v Superman.
Ooh.
Which brings us to today's topic.
Yep.
Today's topic,
Actual topic
is iconic character introductions.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about just what we said, some introductions of characters that are iconic throughout the history of film. Mostly things like big and bold and loud type things.
Yeah, we were going through a couple here beforehand. We were talking about like Anthony Hopkins' introduction in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, where it's this is clearly this is this character's scene type of thing.
We don't have their exposition handed to us in the form of a written letter where they're like, this is Hannibal Lecter. He is a cannibal. We see how he is. We see his mannerisms. We get enough from his the way he moves and the way he's standing that we know who he is.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple kind of different ways to introduce characters. Well, there's infinite number of ways of introducing characters in your film. Only one right way. So many different ways. So one of the examples that we were talking about right before we started is I mentioned one of my favorite movies, Michael Clayton. And Michael Clayton, George Clooney's character, who's the titular character of the film, the way he's introduced is very, very subtle. He's playing a poker game.
Yep.
The camera pans over his stuff that all the people playing the poker game, they have to leave their shit on a table. They can't take it with them. They can't take their cell phone, that sort of thing. And the camera pans over and we see his cell phone ringing, and he also has his ID badge for the law firm that he works for. So it's subtle, and that's a fine way to do it, but that's not what we're talking about today.
It doesn't have his sister walking in and going, Michael, you've been working at the law firm for 3 years now, and I called you on your cellular phone in your backpack twice.
I think he has a BlackBerry in that movie. I feel bad for him.
Yeah, what happened to those?
Right. Well, you forgot the one important thing in that hypothetical scene. That character has to come in and say, Michael, who is my brother, for I am his sister. Like Warcraft.
Oh, yeah. Brother of my sister. Gosh, it's all horrible.
Awesome. So, yeah, that's what we're talking about today. Iconic character introductions, what we love about them, what their effect has on the rest of the film and your perception of the character as a whole, and kind of just diving into that sort of thing.
And we kind of talked about how we were going to try to go about this, and one of the ways we were going to do it is kind of go through a couple big ones, and then kind of the ones that really sealed the deal and really kind of made us want to do this episode in the first place.
Yeah, so we'll start with a few small examples.
Lightning round.
Lightning round. So yeah, you open with Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. Another classic one is Gene Wilder in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Right, which apparently he said that he would only do that if he could do that cartwheel scene.
It was his improvisation to where, he walks out and he's got the cane and he's kind of slow moving and everybody gets real quiet and they're like, oh, that's Willy Wonka? That's not what they expected.
And he starts to kind of rock back and forth and then he kind of leans forward and he keeps going.
And it looks like he's about to fall. And then he does the tuck and roll and then he stands up and everybody
pops
cheers.
Up with his hat in his hand and his cane in his hand.
And it gives you the idea really quickly that Willy Wonka is kind of this fun-loving character who's a little silly and he doesn't take himself too seriously. And what's cool is that throughout that movie in particular, we really get the idea that Willy Wonka is kind of he doesn't trust that he's going to find anybody who's worthy of inheriting the factory.
Yeah, I kind of joked with this saying that it kind of more so feels like maybe like a PR thing.
Yeah.
Like he's doing this because he's kind of being forced to do it.
Right. And throughout the movie, like as the kids are talking, he even has this attitude of like, yeah, then this is the candy room or whatever.
No, please stop.
Right, exactly. Like he's clearly dejected and he doesn't care.
You have to go pump him free of all that chocolate.
Right, and it's kind of a juxtaposition of his original introduction where he's doing the tumble and jumping around. Right, and it's really a front that he puts on as the owner of this company that is in the eyes of the public. He has to put up this persona. It's very Bruce Wayne actually.
Yeah. Another one that we just talked about here a second ago with the wonderful, lovable Brad Dourif, who is the older version of Paul Dano, they're both just creepy, horrible people in everything they're always in.
Right.
Brad Dourif in the third Exorcist movie, because there needed to be at least that.
Isn't that, what's that one called as a subtitle?
It's the Exorcistist. It's the Die Harder version. It's
the Exorcistist of the Exorcisters.
Right. I think there is. Is there a subtitle on that one?
Exorcisters. Yeah, it's like a heretic or something, or because I think the second one is like something of the
Legacy.
Witch,
Blair of the Witch,
Revenge of the
Dark Side of the Moon,
Exorcisters.
Yes, that's it. Revenge of the Exorcisters. Sounds like a really bad goth band.
This is totally off topic. What was that movie that we watched about the rock band that was all female that got lost on the desert planet?
Oh my gosh! And that the old creepy guy had to help them build it.
Yeah, what was that called?
Oh man,
it was was it like Flaming Lips or something like that?
Something weird, yeah.
Man.
I think it was Flaming Lips because I think I remember making a joke about the Flaming Lips when we watched it.
I don't know why that reminded me of that just now, but it did.
It's so terrible. But so yeah, Exorcist 3, the third one, has...
That's the subtitle. Yes. Exorcist 3, the third one. It's like Shrek the Third.
Yep. Brad Dourif plays part of a character, which is kind of weird to talk about. He plays part of the Gemini Killer, which is this murderer who's in prison, who's believed to be possessed by both, I think, it's either the father of Satan or something. I don't remember which one it is.
The father of Satan or
right.
One of those bad guys.
Well, just a guy from hell. While Brad Dourif plays like this vicious murderer, which I guess could also be Satan, but who knows? But, like, so they keep on switching back and forth. But, like, when we meet him, like, he's just, like, sitting in, like, the corner of, like, this stone room. And, like, the priest, like, immediately notices, like, he can see his breath, even though it's kind of, like, summertime outside. And, like, the guy's just like, come in, father. And he's, like, super polite. And it just, like, he keeps switching back and forth between being polite and then, like, switching into, like, being, like, crazy and, like, murderous. And then kind of going back and forth. It's super good. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it. But look up Gemini Killer on YouTube and just kind of watch it. It's very, very well done. And, like, Brad Dourif at one point will be, like, having, like, this really low demon voice. And then next he'll have, like, a high-pitched like a child's voice. And, like, he'll just switch back and forth between them. It's super, super good. And it's very creepy and unsettling.
Nice. So the first major one that I want to talk about is one that's very near and dear to me because this book series and this film series was incredibly important in shaping kind of my view of fantasy and my view of like epic movies and that sort of thing.
It's Lex Luthor from Batman v Superman.
It is actually because who knows? What is he? Is he a religious nut? Is he a crazy businessman?
Who knows? He likes Jolly Ranchers.
Who knows?
Jolly Ranchers gave him money.
Movie's fucking garbage.
Cherry one's my favorite.
But is Aragorn from the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yep.
So classically, Aragorn is a ranger of the North. So when Frodo Baggins and his party of hobbits are in the Prancing Pony Inn in Bree, a lot of detail, they're sitting there and Strider, Aragorn, is over in the corner and he's kind of sitting there with the now classic, like he's got his, the cloak, the hood pulled up and he's smoking his pipe and you can't see his face, but every once in a while when he's smoking the pipe, the heat, the light from the flames like kind of light up his eyes. And it's very cool. It's very pulpy, but in a medieval sort of way.
Right.
It's really, really cool. And then of course, they ask like, who's that man over there? And the guy who owns the inn, he's like, oh, what his right name is, I don't likely know, but around here they call him Strider. And like it's this very like mysterious setup. And then he pulls Frodo upstairs after Frodo accidentally puts on the ring. he's very, very cryptic, and he's taking his fingers and he's putting out the candles in the room, like a lot of attention to detail. And he has this great line where he's like, I can avoid being seen if I wish, but disappear entirely, that is a gift. And it's just this really cool moment. And then Samwise and the other hobbits, they run in, and they're ready to defend Frodo even though they don't have any weapons.
They have their fisticuffs.
Right. And Aragorn is like, you have a stout heart, little fellow, but yeah, I could kill you, basically.
Right. That's when he stabs him, right?
Well, it's funny you mention that, because in the book and in the Ralph Bakshi animated Lord of the Rings, which is not good, but...
It has not aged well.
It has. I mean, it didn't age well
when it came out.
But it's not a great movie, but this total side note, but the Ralph Bakshi movie like clearly inspired Peter Jackson. Like, he definitely lifted some imagery and things out of that movie and adapted it to live action, which is cool. Like, I like the Ralph Bakshi movie just because, again, I saw it when I was a kid before the trilogy was out. And, again, it was very influential on how I think of fantasy and how I think of fantasy storytelling and film and that sort of thing. But anyway, in the book and in that movie, Aragorn has an additional line that's not in the Peter Jackson film, where he says, he actually reveals who he is. He's like, I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn, and if I wanted the ring, I could have it now. And he draws his sword, and the hobbits are like, okay, so clearly he must be on our side, because he could just kill us if he wanted it. And I think they, in the Peter Jackson one, they had the reveal that Aragorn was Aragorn, heir of Isildur. They saved that for a reveal later on in the movie, which I think also works. That's fine. It's more dramatic, and it's probably better for the movie that way. But I do miss that moment where Aragorn is like, if I wanted the ring, I could just have it now. And it's a way for the characters and the audience to know, hey, this guy's on Frodo's side. Like, he's there to protect him.
Yeah. It's not until Hugo Weaving shows up that we know who he really is.
Yeah, Agent Smith.
He's dating Liv Tyler.
In Two Towers,
heir to Steven Tyler.
Heir to Steven Tyler and the Aerosmith fortune.
Right, and all the cocaine.
That's like a subplot of of Return of the King.
So they're gonna, based on how well Rogue One does, they might do a side story about Liv Tyler and how she grows up to play a little bit of guitar, become a bard. I don't know. I think one of my favorite. This is off topic again. But my favorite Steve Tyler quote is like, it's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is kind of embarrassing for him, but he's like, yeah, I've got like half of Peru up my nose. It's like, oh, geez. That's great.
Was it true that you think that you blew something like $20 million on drugs?
No, probably realistically, 5 or 6. Easy. But it doesn't matter. You could also say I've snorted half of Peru, but, it's what we did.
Nice.
Good job, man. He's okay, though. Steve Tyler, please come on our show. We'll have a third chair for you.
Send us cookies. Send us a pizza roll.
Send us some cocaine in that pizza roll. We won't eat it. So, to kind of take off of the serious, interesting, cool, badass tone of Aragorn, I hate this franchise except for this very first movie, and that is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
The introduction of Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow is perfect for this film.
Yes.
We have talk of pirates. We have the introduction with the pirates. We have the talking to Elizabeth Swann and the saving of Will Turner. And we have all this cool setup of pirates, and then it cuts to this beautiful sky and Johnny Depp just clinging to the top of a mast as it's clearly sailing forward. And you're like, oh, here he comes. He's going to be riding on this huge, beautiful ship. The Black Pearl or whatever.
Yeah, the music's going.
It's swelling. It's the ba-da-dun, dun, da-da-dun, dun. And it's like, oh, it's going to be great. Then it pans back, and he's literally holding on to a mast as his ship slowly sinks into the harbor.
Right. He's literally at the top of the crow's nest
right
before it sinks all the way in.
And perfectly, he just steps off of it onto the harbor.
Yes.
And then we get a funny exchange where they're like,
it's a shilling to tie up your boat at the dock. And I shall need to know your name.
What do you say to 3 shillings? And we forget the name.
Welcome to Port Royal, Mr. Smith.
But it's amazing. It's this perfect setup of Johnny Depp, and as Captain Jack Sparrow is this goofy kind of crappy pirate.
Yes. It's a perfect establishment of his character and the tone associated with his character.
Right, and we have this wonderful like back and forth between him and the Royal Guard at one point, which has my favorite line, where it's like he's like, Captain Jack Sparrow, you know, I heard you were the worst. I heard you lost your ship, blah blah blah. And Johnny Depp goes, but you have heard of me. And it's this really good setup of, you know, he's a pirate, he's doing his best, he's pretty terrible. But, you know, he kind of fancies himself as bigger than he really is.
He gets by on the seat of his pants. Like, he's almost like Indiana Jones. Like, he gets by on his grit. Like, he just scrapes by in situations and kind of gets out of there.
That character design right there carries through the whole movie. He has his up and downs. He does do redeeming things. And that first movie is really, really solid. I think they kind of throw it away in
Definitely.
2 and onward.
Yeah.
But we just get that perfect shot. Sets up, like, it's kind of a cool way because it does kind of a bait and switch. You know, it shows us this legendary pirate on top of a ship, and then it kind of just takes it away from you, like rips the rug out from under you and says, nope, he's kind of a loser.
Yeah, and it's a perfect establishment, again, of his character and the tone associated with his character, because throughout the movie, he does things in his own interest, but he clearly has a heart as well.
He still cares about his crew, and he cares about Will and Elizabeth.
Yes.
However, it is always about number one when it comes to like anything money-wise or his ship. It's always me and then everyone else.
Yeah, definitely a perfect way to introduce a character who's kind of silly and kind of comedic. And
great way to introduce the series.
Yeah.
Well, the film, not the series.
Right. Perfect way, again, to establish not only the tone of his character, but the tone of, the film itself.
Right. Fantastic. Pirates are great. Especially Somalian.
Ninjas are better.
Nope. Yeah, they might. No, well, who knows?
Ninjas are definitely better.
They're more skilled. Pirates are drunk, rapists, and assholes.
You heard it here, folks. Ninjas are better.
The official Ninja Pro Ninja podcast.
Pro Ninja podcast.
Get out of here, Captain Phillips, and your stupid fake pirate story. I think that really happened.
It did.
Tom Hanks, he's so good.
So the next one I want to talk about is from a movie that I really, really loved as a kid. I still like it. It's not perfect. The ending sucks. We've talked about this before.
I don't think it sucks.
But it's the 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman film.
Directed by Richard Donner.
Directed by Richard Donner, yes. So
the Donner Party.
The beginning of the Donner Party, yeah. Official. You heard it here first.
Conspiracy theorists, get to it.
So we get Kal-El as a little kid, as a baby, and he gets launched into space. He gets to Earth. He gets raised by Martha and Jonathan. We get the great scene that I've talked about many times before where Jonathan dies of a heart attack.
Right.
Clark Kent realizes, I can't save everyone because even though I have all these powers, sometimes things are out of my control. Then he goes to the Fortress of Solitude.
His film franchise.
Exactly. Then he goes to the North Pole or Antarctica or whatever. I don't know if it's in the North Pole or the South Pole, actually.
I think it's in the North.
It would have to be... They've never established that, at least not in the films.
But I think they've said North Pole before.
Okay. He goes
to an ice cap.
He goes to the tundra, where he throws his little green crystal.
He goes to Midwest Canada.
He throws his little green crystal, and it forms the Fortress of Solitude.
Right.
And in this movie, he stays in the Fortress of Solitude for several years while he continues his education.
That's where he fights the polar bears, right?
He is talked to by
Marlon Brando.
The computer memory, virtual memory, whatever, of Marlon Brando.
Right.
Who, presumably gives him a further education, teaches him about the problems of Earth and the people of Earth, and that even though he's going to be able to do great things, he can't directly interfere with... He
needs to respect, the processes of Earth.
Exactly.
Not touch and interfere at all.
There's this great moment. It's at the end of that little montage. It's very 2001: A Space Odyssey, where you're flying in space and there's kind of colors and things. Very, very big in the 70s. And Marlon Brando ends with basically you are going to do great things, Kal-El. You are incredible. You are my son. And then the camera comes into the Fortress of Solitude, and then Superman is standing way far away from the camera on the opposite side of the room. And the music, dun, 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 dun. And then Superman starts to fly, he starts to fly towards the camera, and then it's the dun 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 dun, and he as he flies past, though, you don't really get a good look at his face and of the costume, and then it cuts to Metropolis. And it's so perfect because it gives you just a little taste, and then it's like, oh, you're gonna have to wait until you see the rest of it.
It starts the transition. It says like now he's now he knows what he's gonna do.
Yep. And then you get the several scenes where Superman is, he flies up and he saves the plane, and he stops the criminal climbing the wall, and he saves the cat, and then you actually get your introduction to Superman. But just that opening scene of him where he starts to fly, and it's got the music, and you've got the costume, and you've got that great set for the Force of Solitude, and you get just a little taste, but then they're like, nope, you're gonna have to wait.
The Force of Solitude that has no bottom to it.
Nope, none at all.
Find out the second movie.
But it's so great. Like, it's so perfect. It's very traditional, like late 70s, early 80s filmmaking. It's very straightforward, and it gives you just that little taste, but it's just this moment of, I often talk about, I haven't talked about this on the podcast in a while, but in conversations about film, I often talk about this concept that I call the magic of movies, or the magic of movie making. And it's just these really iconic moments that the best way I can describe is they give you the feels.
They give you goosebumps when you see them.
They do. Like, they make you feel so good. Like, Back to the Future, just full of magic movie moments. And just, like the original Star Wars, and just there's these movies, and a lot of them come from the late 70s and the early 80s.
Back when people gave a shit.
Yeah, back when, we had, Spielberg, and we had George Lucas and Kubrick, and like all of these iconic great filmmakers deliver these moments where it just makes you smile.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic. I love it. And the ending of that movie sucks.
Right, but I would say it's good though.
But it's
the best Superman movie we've had
by far, and a lot of that has to do, I've talked about this before too, with Christopher Reeve, his performance. Because one I don't know if I've ever talked about this specifically, but the direction that he was given during that movie was, you're not playing two different characters. You're not playing Clark Kent and then playing Superman. You're playing Superman
trying and then to hide as Clark Kent.
And then you're playing Superman playing Clark Kent.
Right.
And
it's the actor.
Yeah, problem. He's perfect in that movie. Personified exactly by that scene where he's almost tells Lois that he is Superman, and like he's in her apartment, she's getting ready, and he takes off his glasses.
And he like straightens
up. He straightens up, and he's like, Lois, I have to tell you. And she walks back into the room, and he puts on the glasses real quick, and he's like, so. And he kind of like stutters, and he was so good. He was so perfect in that movie.
The thing that sold me on his performance in Superman is the mugging scene when him and Lois are cutting through an alleyway. It's near the beginning.
Yes.
They cut through an alleyway, and a guy pulls out a gun and he's like, give me all your money. And like, I don't remember what they say. They kind of refuse.
Yeah, and she like drops her purse on purpose, and he's like, Lois, what are you doing? And then she's kind of like putting up a struggle.
Yeah.
And then he
shoots Clark.
Yeah, well, Clark catches the bullet.
Yeah.
Like, he shoots at Lois, and Clark catches the bullet, and then pretends like he fainted.
Right.
And he falls down. He's like, oh, I guess I must have fainted.
Right, and it's this totally hammy, like Clark Kent, but it's perfect.
Yeah, and Lois gets up, and she's like, come on, look.
Come on, you dope.
And then the camera goes down, and he's sitting there, and he looks at the bullet in his hand.
And it's just crushed.
And he's like, and the bullet's just like smashing his hand, and he kind of just tosses it aside and like, all right, let's go.
Right. I love it. It's a perfect definition of who he is.
Yes.
So it's great. Superman.
So good.
So speaking of classic era films, I want to talk about Star Wars, because why the hell not should we talk about Star Wars? Now, this was actually really difficult thinking about this because there's tons of great character introductions in the original trilogy.
Definitely.
There's the introduction of Lando in Empire Strikes Back. There's the introduction of
Han hanging out with this loser Chewbacca? Right. I love that.
We have the introduction of Han Solo in the Mos Eisley Cantina, especially with the Greedo scene.
Yeah, the Greedo scene.
We have Darth Vader's introduction, with the rebel soldiers all dead in the corridor.
With the music,
and he just walks in,
the breathing.
And the smoke. And that's that bam, bam, bam. Like, that swell is amazing. But the one that really always stood out to me was the introduction of Yoda. Not only is the musical track by John Williams with Yoda perfectly set up like this mystery, but also this kind of this aged, like, I'm trying to think what the word.
There's like a mysticism behind that track. Yeah,
there's like this finesse to like who this person was and who they are now. It's again like a Captain Jack Sparrow introduction where it kind of does a bait and switch, where Luke is on a nameless planet. It's the Dagobah system. I don't know if it's Dagobah.
Dagobah, yeah.
Yeah. But he's looking for the great master Yoda to help train him in the Force and, become a Jedi. And he's kind of made camp, and he's going to go look for him. And, his X-Wing has sunk into the mud, and he's all bummed out now because, now I'm stuck until I find Yoda. And while he's prepping his dinner, this little alien kind of starts to mess through his bag and look through stuff and kind of starts joking with him, talking to him. And, Luke's like, oh, come on, I'm just looking for Master Yoda. And he's like, oh, I know Yoda. I'll take you to go see him. Why don't we go? And it's like this really goofy introduction. And then, of course, the reveal is that the little alien is Yoda.
Right.
And it's wonderful because we see that he's very, cheerful in his old age, but he's also very, he does want to help Luke, but he's kind of not sure. And it was kind of almost like he was testing him to see how he handled himself in front of a stranger or in front of, I imagine he kind of was reading him with the Force, depending on what you think the Force is, because there's two different ideas.
Metachlorians.
Right. He was reading his metachlorian account in his red blood cells, which is mitochondria, is what the word you're looking for. But it's wonderful because we have this goofy green guy who's supposed to be the master of the Force, and of course he is, as we find out. And he just has a lot of amazing lines, and he teaches Luke so many great things. I mean, so many of the greatest quotes from Star Wars is the "Do or do not, there is no try." Mm-hmm. That is why you fail. All these great moments, and it all starts right there. We see who he is.
Right. And like you said, it really subverts your expectations because you're expecting this. Luke even says in the film, this great warrior.
Right.
And Yoda, wars do not make one great. And when you get the reveal that this is Yoda and he's talking to Kenobi and he's like, I can't train him. And it's just...
He's not ready.
Right. He's not ready. He's too old. And then when Luke's like, you're Yoda?
Yeah.
And it's just this... And we, the audience, are like, that's Yoda. It just... Again, it completely subverts your expectations.
Because, all throughout the series, we've been seeing different aliens. We've seen Wookiees who are huge.
Yeah.
The Mos Eisley Cantina scene, we see a whole bunch of, varying sizes of aliens, cool designs.
Right.
Ben Kenobi is, a human-looking character in a robe.
And we get the idea that,
tiny gnome.
Kenobi and Darth Vader, who were once these great Jedi warriors, they're these kind of rather imposing figures.
Right.
And then when you get Yoda, supposedly one of the most powerful Jedi ever, and
he's living in a mud hut.
Yeah, and the whole point of those scenes in Empire and slightly carrying over into Jedi is that the Force is not about brute strength. It's not about your size. It's about your willpower and your ability to connect with the Force. And it's so well done, completely dismantled by the prequels.
Yes.
God damn it.
He should never use a lightsaber.
No,
I stand by that. If he was going to fight Christopher Lee, it should have been with Force. That's it.
Yeah.
And speaking of the prequels, the prequels were notorious for horrible character introductions.
Yeah.
We talked about this right before it. One of the most ridiculously bad character introductions in all of cinema is the introduction of General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. It is literally 2 lines, which is, there it is, right in front of us is General Grievous' ship, straight ahead. And then I believe the Emperor's on General Grievous' ship, I think are the 2 lines said. And they're said we're supposed to know who he is.
Right.
And don't give me that bullshit about oh, we were supposed to watch the Star Wars Clone Wars animated series. I did. They're great, but you don't do that for movies.
Right.
And then blast doors open and this hunched over robot who's like, get him off the...
Yeah, he's wheezing, coughing.
Who's this?
It's a very strange introduction for a villain because he's clearly in a weakened state, but we're supposed to get the idea that he's this imposing force. And it's a very strange choice. Again,
the thing I don't get is why did they write off Dooku so quickly?
Right.
Because they could have just made it Dooku. Just don't kill him in the beginning. Make it Dooku.
Christopher Lee probably just wasn't around for that much more filming.
He wanted his check and he wanted to get out of there.
The dude was old, man. What are you going to do?
And even Star Wars Episode 1, the introduction of Darth Maul is just here's my apprentice, his name's Maul.
Right.
And Yoda's introduction in the prequels is they just cut to a room and there he is.
Yeah.
There's no introductions in those movies.
I think the biggest flaw as far as introductions goes, I think falls into Attack of the Clones, where it's Obi-Wan and Anakin in the elevator riding up towards Padme, and they're telling us, they're talking about things that
The
happened in
different
the
adventures.
past.
And they do that a lot in Revenge as well.
Yeah, and they're talking about how, oh yeah, this happened. Remember when that happened? And it's like you're telling us about
This
all
reminds
these
us of the time where we fought the Snarlack.
Yeah. You're telling us about all these things that are more interesting than the movie we're seeing.
Right.
Like you're describing a movie that's more interesting than the one that the audience is currently watching.
Yeah.
And that's not a good move.
You can't just say a name and put someone on screen and make us go, oh, there he is. God, it sucks. But Yoda's introduction in episode 5 is just, it's speechless. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's, again, John Williams' score.
Right.
You know?
It's John Williams' score. It's Frank Oz's voice work and puppetry.
Right. It's the set.
It's Mark Hamill's performance with the puppet.
Right.
Like everything kind of coalesces into this. It's really just a magical scene. Like the scenes with Luke and Yoda are probably the best scenes in Empire.
Right, the training montage, the X-Wing in the mud.
The editing, we've talked before about the scene where he's lifting the X-Wing and how the editing, as the action is ramping up, the shots get shorter and shorter, and then as Luke's failing, the shots get slightly longer and slightly longer. Like the editing of the scene makes you feel the struggle that Luke feels, makes you feel the emotions that Yoda is feeling while he's watching that.
And the stakes are going up as they keep getting closer.
And the combination of, the things we just mentioned, the puppetry, the voice work, the acting by Mark Hamill, the set, the editing, the music, like all of it just, it makes Yoda real. Like it makes him a real character.
He's just as real as Mark Hamill is right there.
You don't think for a second like, oh, Mark Hamill's talking to a puppet. Like they really sell that scene, and it's just incredible.
I mean, as a puppet, it has facial expressions. Yeah. It has especially the moment where he says that he cannot train him.
Yeah.
Like you see this disappointment in his face, and you see the sadness of Yoda probably thought at first, hey, here comes the savior who's going to bring down the Sith and, maybe bring the Jedi back. And now he's like, I don't think so anymore.
Right.
I don't see it. It's so good. That movie's so amazing.
All right, so now I'm going to talk about the introduction of Daniel Craig's James Bond in Casino Royale, because it's so fucking good.
And it saved the series.
Oh my God, it's so good. So, opening of Casino Royale, first off, stark black and white.
Yes.
Perfect. Just immediately shows you, hey, this is different.
Right.
Because again, you have this huge franchise of James Bond that has been going for years and years and years, and now you want to establish this is a different kind of James Bond.
Right.
This is a new era for this franchise, and you open the film up, you don't have the gun barrel.
Nope.
You open it with stark black and white.
Yep. And
you have this guy riding up the elevator to his office. He gets into his office, and James Bond is waiting for him. And the guy's talking about how, oh, I guess they sent you for me. What are you doing here? And James Bond is talking about how, generally MI6 doesn't care about what you do on your own time, but when you're selling company secrets, they have to do something about that. And it's just very back and forth between them. They're trying to one-up each other in conversation.
Classic British drama.
Yes, exactly. And then it's intercut with a flashback where Daniel Craig is fighting this other guy in a bathroom. And again, it's stark black and white, but the flashback is kind of a little more grainy. So it gives you that distinction, and the scene is a little more rough, and the film and the editing is rougher than the scene that we're getting in the office. So again, it's kind of that tie back to the way that you're editing and the way that you're filming your scene is evoking the emotion that you want the audience to have. And it's this quick cut back and forth between the action of this intense scene and the kind of sterileness, but the sterile tenseness of this stand scene, this scene where it's essentially at a standstill and it's a conversation between these two characters.
Right.
And so we get the moment of drama when the one guy asks James Bond, he's like, what happened to my associate? How did he die? And James Bond tells him, not well. And then it cuts to him drowning the guy in the sink.
The bathroom
sink.
In
the bathroom sink, forcing him down. And the guy's struggling. He hits his hand. He tries to use his gun to shoot James. And James pushes the gun out of the way, slams his hand into the mirror when the mirror breaks. Yep. And again, it's very, very visceral.
And it's real. And
yes.
It's harsh.
It's so good. And then he drowns the guy in the sink. and then lets him go and like kind of stumbles back and like to catch his breath. And there's blood and there's the the tile and the mirror is broken and it's clearly been a struggle.
Right.
Cuts back to the office and the guy sitting behind the desk pulls out his gun and aims it at James.
Yep.
And James like kind of has a smirk on his face and gives him like the I already removed the bullets from your gun.
Right.
You've been out of the field so long that you don't know the difference between a loaded gun. There's this great moment where he's like, you're not a 00 yet because it requires 2. And like as he's saying that, like James pulls out his gun and just one shot, just pew pew, and just destroys the guy. And the guy falls out of his chair. And then, James kind of has a smile. He's like, yep, it takes 2. And he gets up to leave. And then we cut back to the bathroom where the guy wakes up, grabs his gun, aims at James. And then we get the gun barrel of him, the quick turn, and boom. And we launch into the Chris Cornell song, You Know My Name, which is a perfect choice for this movie because the whole idea is that you know the name of James Bond.
But this isn't your James Bond.
Right, but this isn't the James Bond that you know. You know my name, but you don't know the rest about me. And again, it's an incredible stark difference between all the films that we've had previously, which generally have, this certain quippy sense of humor about them.
Yeah, they're more so Austin Powers than James Bond
and
Daniel Craig.
They're not like necessarily super over the top, but like especially, we were just coming out of the era of Brosnan films with with the exception of GoldenEye kind of, which is a little more serious and a little more darker.
That's why it's everyone's favorite.
Yeah. All the other ones, and especially Die Another Day, which was the one right before this, was just completely ridiculous.
And the CG.
Right. Invisible cars and James Bond like parachute surfing and like it's crazy. And so the opening of this movie, establishes the fact that this is a totally different era for James Bond.
Yep.
This is a totally different kind of James Bond. Again, the editing and the choice of color, the choice of opening theme song, like all of these elements really established at the beginning of this movie, this is a different character.
Yeah.
And that, especially in the first movie and in continuing in Quantum of Solace, that idea really permeates. The idea that this James Bond is not a perfect guy. Like, he's kind of an alcoholic. He's kind of a sociopath. He has emotional problems.
He's murderous.
He basically has a job where he is allowed to kill people, and he kind of enjoys killing people.
License to kill.
So
it was honestly probably the last one that I think got even close to being as violent as Daniel Craig's James Bond was. Timothy Dalton's.
Yeah, the Timothy Dalton Bonds were again a little darker, a little more serious. They were really trying to go for that. And because the James Bond movies traditionally borrow from whatever is popular at the time.
Right.
And it was one of those things where, movies in the 80s were kind of getting a little more ridiculous as far as action goes, because you had the real high point of Arnold Schwarzenegger with movies like Commando
Terminator.
And The Running Man and Terminator, exactly. And the Dalton Bonds were kind of a little lost because you also had Die Hard in there as well, and there wasn't a lot to borrow from. And then there was a big hiatus until we got GoldenEye in 1994, I want to say, 95, somewhere in that neighborhood. And Martin Campbell, who directed GoldenEye and also directed Casino Royale, like generally widely regarded as two of the better Bonds in recent memory. We've talked about this before. Everybody seems to love Skyfall. We don't really like Skyfall.
It's a little too cheesy for me.
Yeah, it
goes a little too far.
Yeah.
And I understand why it did, because it was the 50th.
Yeah, it was the anniversary.
So they were trying to throw in like the car.
They were pulling the needle back the opposite way. Yeah.
Monkey Penny was back, and
Monkey Penny.
Yeah, that's a Spy Fox reference for you Hasbro fans.
Nice.
It's good to see you, Agent Fox.
Ah, Monkey Penny. Now this is a real TV dinner.
Right.
It was bringing back a whole bunch of like the cliche recognizable items from like the Roger Moore and Sean Connery days.
Yeah, and I think that was a real disappointment based upon what they had done with Casino and Quantum. And I know Quantum wasn't wildly successful. Again, we've talked about how a lot of people don't like Quantum. I actually really like that movie. It's not nearly as good as Casino Royale, obviously, but it continued what they started with Casino Royale, which I really appreciated. And I felt like Skyfall kind of really undid a lot of the things that they had established with those first two movies. But yeah, anyway, introduction of Daniel Craig's James Bond in Casino Royale, it's like a 10-minute long scene, if that, and it's incredible. It's such fantastic filmmaking. Again, all of those elements come together of the camera angles, the direction, the acting, the editing techniques, the back and forth between the choice of black and white, the stark difference between these other films.
Right.
Like it was a way to really plant their flag in the ground and say, this is a different kind of movie. This is a different kind of James Bond.
Here we go.
Here we go. Awesome.
So next one I want to talk about is very quickly done, but it's kind of cool that the introduction is about 20 to 30 minutes in the movie, but we kind of feel their presence through the whole film up until then. And that is the Captain America sequel, The Winter Soldier. Specifically for The Winter Soldier.
Bucky Barnes.
Right. We have several scenes leading up to it where they either talk about him, like, Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, she knows about this rumored soldier, the Winter Soldier. There's a part where, they have mention of an active agent moving around. But then the main scene I want to talk about is we have this big car action scene with Nick Fury where he's in like this hardcore armored SUV being chased by the classic line of black SUVs and police officers. As he's like racing around the city and they're like shooting at him and they're trying to like ram their cars into him and everything. And he's like barely escaping stuff. And eventually he does get away from them and he turns down the street and the music fades out as he like turns on the street. He's kind of like looking over his shoulder to see if they're still following him. And he looks forward and there's just this lone figure just standing in the road in front of him. And he just kind of looks at it where he's just going to kind of plow through it. And it just cuts to the Winter Soldier who just shoots this little disc and it's kind of cheesy.
It's very, very comic book.
Yeah, where it clicks underneath the car, clicks back up to it, and like blows it up. And it's this amazingly cool way of showing that, hey, there were like 40 Hydra agents after him. They couldn't do shit. Here's one guy, and he dismantles the vehicle immediately.
Yeah, and very tactically.
Yeah, like he's got this really cool weapon, whatever, and like it also has like the kind of cheesy, cool guys don't look at explosions. Where he's like sidesteps and the car flings past him as he like slowly walks towards it. It's fantastic. And I think it's cool that even that doesn't serve as his introduction. We don't really see his introduction until the confrontation between him and Captain America underneath the highway, which has one of the best
deaths
deaths
ever.
That's an awesome
scene, yeah.
It has the best death ever where he literally just reaches through the window, pulls the dude out of the car, and just flings him into oncoming traffic. And it's just like, well, he's dead. There he goes. But that scene is so good because we have him shooting after Black Widow because he takes out Captain America with a rocket right off the bat, and just the fight scene between him and Cap with like the shield and the knife choreography, which I did read that apparently Sebastian Stan, who plays the Winter Soldier, would just like walk around set and just like throw the knife back and forth.
That's awesome.
Just to become like more familiar with its weight, and you can tell because of how much he's just dropping it between hands.
Yeah, that knife fight is awesome.
It's so good, and it's shot really clean where it's close up, but it's not shaky cam.
Yeah.
It's so great, and it sets up this figure that just seems unstoppable.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before too, where I don't feel like the first Captain America effectively establishes Bucky Barnes to where the reveal of who he is as the Winter Soldier is super effective in the second movie.
Most people didn't know who he was when they said it.
Yeah, I think they really tried to shoehorn that in, and it doesn't work very well for me. But I agree that the introduction of the Winter Soldier as a villain, very, very effective. Like you said, it shows that he is using technology and he is able to kind of take down Nick Fury's SUV when the however many Hydra agents couldn't do anything. Like they were defeated by him.
Right.
And it's an establishment of this is, again, it's showing without telling. It's showing you, look at his abilities in comparison to everyone else who's already failed.
No one's going, wow, look how skilled he is.
Right.
He's so skilled.
Yeah. And this is something that we'll talk about at a later date, but there was recently a video released by the incredible YouTube channel Every Frame a Painting where they're talking about the music in Marvel movies. And they show the scene at the beginning of The Winter Soldier where Captain America walks into the museum and we have there's the
it's the Smithsonian's like Captain America display.
Yeah. And there's
like
the voice, right? There's the voice over the PA that's like, Steve Rogers joined the United States Army
After
and
being
blah, blah,
denied
blah.
4 times.
Exactly.
Enlistment.
And then there's the little kid who sees him and recognizes him and he's like, shh, like, quiet. And it's just with that voiceover, when you remove it, because that's what they do on this YouTube video on this channel, Every Frame of Painting, they remove that voiceover and they just let the music play, and it's so much
very well
better. Like it's so much better. It's this moment where you're allowing the music to create and evoke the emotion that you want to get out of the audience, and it's so incredible. And I think that's emblematic of the movies in general. But that's a moment where they really did well, where they allowed you, the audience, to feel and see this is how effective the Winter Soldier is at getting his mark without explicitly telling us.
Yeah.
And that's something they do a lot throughout the Marvel movies. They tell us without showing, but I think that this was an example where they really, really nailed it.
Yeah. And I do agree with the music. I think Winter Soldier is one of the ones that actually does it very well with the music.
I agree, yeah.
Because specifically how I mentioned that the music drops out at that point, the music kind of swells after Nick Fury gets away, where it's kind of like it's successful, he's gotten out, he won, and it just drops, and we see the figure, and it starts playing that weird scratchy, like almost sounds like someone yelling kind of sound, and it takes away your hope. And that's a spot where the music plays like this really good way of not beating you over the head saying, here comes something bad, but it lets you know that, hey, Nick Fury's not out of, he's not out of this yet.
Yeah, it adds to the emotion without forcing you.
Right.
Without forcing the emotion down your throat.
It's not Hans Zimmer's Batman v Superman score that's just bomb, 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 bomb. It's like, yay, it's intense and scary. Good job.
We never did talk about the music in Batman v Superman in that episode.
I want to one day.
I think we've mentioned it again on another episode, but the music in that movie was just fucking awful.
Oh, you mean the...
I mean, that was the best. The Wonder Woman theme is the best thing, and it doesn't fit at all.
It doesn't fit her.
But at least it's something.
If it does, if they make it fit... Which is fucking stupid if they do it, because you don't fucking do that. You don't write the music first.
Right, well, it doesn't belong in a period piece.
No, but if for some reason, if it does turn out to work for that, that's going to be fucking great. But, I mean, look at the Batman themes that we've had. We had fucking Danny Elfman's theme, which is amazing.
Iconic.
Hans Zimmer's theme, which was still really good.
Yes.
And then Hans Zimmer's theme, which is just fucking terrible.
Yep.
I fucking hate his new theme.
A lot of Hans Zimmer's newer stuff is just bah, bah.
It's Inception.
Bah. It's
after Inception's.
I think the worst was Interstellar.
Yes.
The score in Interstellar was just.
You could have done so much with that.
It was grating.
Space movie space movies offer so much opportunity for really creative you can do a lot of different kind of chorale
it's fucking
stuff.
space, the wonder, the majesty of space. But now all we get is blah, blah.
Oh, here goes the black hole, blah, black hole, blah. It's annoying. It served well in Inception. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Ever since that, it's just stop.
Yeah, everything is that.
So the last one we wanted to kind of close on is the introduction of arguably the most popular comic book character, the Joker. Specifically, I kind of wanted to start with The Dark Knight. We'll probably go into talk about some of the other appearances, but let's talk about the big one first. So, and I know that his introduction is technically the bank robbery scene with I killed the bus driver, and what doesn't kill you makes you stranger kind of scene. I don't consider that his introduction. I consider that kind of like a character development that you keep in the back of your mind for later.
Yeah, I would almost, kind of like you were talking about with Winter Soldier, where we keep hearing about this character, but we haven't seen him yet. That's almost in that category. Or, like I was talking about with Superman, where you get that brief glimpse of that character, but then they're quickly taken away from you, and it's really just a taste of what's to come.
Yep, it's like a teaser.
Exactly.
It's a teaser trailer for the real trailer.
A trailer within a movie.
Yep.
Batman v Superman knows all about that.
Oh, yeah. So Suicide Squad. So I would consider the more introduction scene being the boardroom meeting that has Maroni, the Irishman.
Right, all the crime bosses.
Right, it's got all these crime bosses, and they're sitting in a room, and they're talking to their head honcho
their
guy.
Banker, yeah.
Yeah, who's going to move all their money for them and everything like that. And they're cut off by the greatest Joker laugh ever, which is just this...
Ha.
Right. Ha, ho, ho, he, ha, ha.
Ha, ha, oh, ha, ha, ooh, he, ha, ha. And I thought my jokes were bad.
Love that line. this scene gives us so much. One, we get a lot of goofy lines from him, which is great. We get a fake laugh. That's great. But we see him do several actions that are comfortable to him. Like he kills a guy with the famous pencil scene.
Yes.
He just sits up, props his feet on it, makes that joke about the suit's not cheap. You should know you bought it.
Right.
And he's doing this in front of crime bosses. He's doing this in front of the men that run Gotham City, technically. And he has no reserve. He doesn't show any fear. He doesn't show any regret, and he doesn't hold back. He kills one of their guys right there in front of him, and nothing it doesn't matter. And he does have the
right.
Grenades
they
in his
threaten
jacket.
him, and he opens up his jacket, and he's got all the grenades inside.
So he's got a plan B, but there's weight to this.
Right, and there's a lot of factors to this scene. Number one, we have specifically we have Sal Maroni, the crime boss, who we've already established in another scene. He was in the courtroom scene with Maggie Gyllenhaal's character and Aaron Eckhart. And so we know this guy's dangerous. He is part of the mob. So when we get all these guys in this room, we understand, okay, these are bad guys. These are mobsters. Yep. And so when the Joker walks in, like you said, we get an immediate setup where he is in danger. He's by far outnumbered. He kills one of those guys with the, do you want to see a magic trick or the pencil trick? So that's fantastic. So the Joker's in danger. But like you said, the Joker has a plan B. He has the grenades in his coat.
Yep.
He has a plan. He says, hey, it's simple. We kill the Batman. I'll do it. You just have to pay me. Let's partner up.
Right.
And
if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Yeah, if you're good at something, never do it for free. There's so many things going on in the scene. Every line that he has is fantastic.
Right.
And
he even predicts the fact that their banker is going to be taken and he's going to squeal.
Right.
And he does.
And the Joker in this scene is funny, but in a very dark, morbid way.
Right. The pencil thing is everyone talked about that for so long after that movie.
If you're good at something, never do it for free. Let's not blow this out of proportion.
Right. Do you think you could come in here and steal this from us?
You think you could steal from us and just walk away?
Yeah. That's the thing. Every line is funny, but it's not an over the top joke.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's this guy in this makeup acting like he is. But he's very straightforward. He's playing the scene straight. He's being the Joker. He's being funny, but he's being terrifying at the same time.
Right.
And we have the geography of this scene is established. We see a wide shot of everybody sitting at the table and everybody looking at the television. So when the Joker enters the scene, we understand where everything is happening in the scene. Which builds.
We know where he's at. Yeah. We know where he's sitting.
The tension is building because of the way that Heath Ledger's performance is just fucking incredible. I know it's been said 1,000 times.
And it will be said 1,000 more.
Just insane, no pun intended, how good he was in this movie.
And I know that a lot of people are drawing comparisons to this, so we're going to make it incredibly brief. But take into consideration the introduction of the Joker in Suicide Squad, where we get a very similar scene where he is in an area, a public area, and he kills someone in the open. But whereas in this scene we see him kill a mob leader's right-hand man in front of all these mob leaders, here he just kills a guy. We have no idea who he is, what his affiliation is, where Joker's at the moment. Is he in the public nightclub? Is he in his nightclub? Is he in Common's nightclub? We have no idea who it is, so when you're trying to establish the same character as being dark and intimidating and, man, he's scary because he's so unpredictable, we get that from Heath Ledger's Joker. We don't get that at all from Jared Leto's.
Right. Again, like we were just saying, the problem is that there's no gravity, there's no weight to the situation.
He's not in danger.
Right. Well, we don't know if he's in danger or not because we don't know where he is. We don't understand the geography of this nightclub. We don't know where we are in time. It's clearly a flashback. We have no idea who the Joker is or what his they're trying to establish, I guess, that he's this established crime lord.
Right.
We haven't been shown that. We don't know who Common is. We don't know if the death of Common means anything or not.
Right.
The scene is really awkward because the Joker is telling him to take Harley Quinn and he's like, "No, man, I'm not going to take your woman." And he's like, "Oh, no, you should take her anyway." No, now I'm going to kill you. It's not insane, it's not crazy. It's just senseless,
right?
Which the Joker is about chaos, and he's about anarchy, but he's not about ridiculousness.
Yeah, he's always got a plan, and that's what makes him terrifying. is he seems crazy. He seems like he's unpredictable, but really he has a lot of things planned out.
He's cunning. He's conniving.
He's incredible. He has personality disorder, which they're charming, but they have no connection to human emotions. Like, he doesn't care what he does, but he's very charismatic in the way that he talks to people and knows what they're doing. He can convince people, and he uses that to his benefit.
Right.
I mean, if you want to break down the two scenes, like you said, with the comment he says, take my girl, no, shoot him. I mean, in the pencil scene, which is very mirrored, like, it's just, what is the guy's name, like Two-Ball or something like that? Is going to have this guy escort him out. And, like, the Joker just takes him and kills him right there, and he's like,
right.
Ta-da, that's it.
Right, and he sets it up. It's like, it's a magic trick, and it's funny. Like, when it happens, again, it's darkly humorous. And when we have the scene with Common in the nightclub, it's not funny because there's no setup. It's not a punchline. It falls on deaf ears. It really, really does. It's super, super awkward. So again, Ledger's introduction is awesome. Leto's confusing. Obviously, the Jack Nicholson introduction in Batman '89, also very iconic. Yep. With, arguably, like, the incredible scene where he's getting the surgery and, mirror.
Yeah.
The guy has to hand him the mirror, and, like, that's creepy. Like, that is classic, like, Tim Burton artsy-fartsy, like, weirdness.
Yeah.
But it really, really works for that particular scene. And then there's
it works for that Gotham.
Yeah, and it works in the scene where he goes back into the office and he kills Jack Palance, and he's kind of like dancing around, and he's being silly because Jack Nicholson's Joker is kind of a silly character.
He's more goofy.
But he's like morbidly goofy.
Yeah.
Like, he's just
he's still killing people.
Yeah, the poison gas and the parade and
the guns.
Yeah, or the electrocution when he electrocutes the guy. Like, he's being funny and he's being a little more jokey and goofy, but it's still terrifying in that way. Same idea, Mark Hamill's Joker from the animated series. And then, of course, you have Cesar Romero.
Right, who refused to shave his mustache.
So
but
they
even
he
was a good Joker. I mean, like, he wasn't murderous.
He was a prankster. Yeah, he was a goofy prankster.
He did stuff unexpectedly.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to think if there's any other Jokers we could talk about. There aren't any. So write in about your favorite Jokers.
There are no more Jokers.
No more people ever performed the Joker.
Never once.
John DiMaggio.
That is a great one.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah, so Under the Red Hood, our introduction to the Joker is him beating to death Jason Todd.
Right, and he's funny. He's like...
So, let's try and clear this up, okay, Pumpkin? What hurts more? A or B? Forehand or backhand?
He's just beating him with the crowbar.
Yes.
And, like, Robin, like, I love that line because Robin spits on his face. He's like, rude. The other boy, Blunder, he had manners. He had something great about him. But you... And it's fantastic.
Yeah, and again, in all of these examples minus one, you clearly get a sense of what this character is about and the kind of Joker that they want to establish.
Right.
That the film or the television show or what have you, the kind of Joker that is to be expected and that how they want you to feel as an audience member. Yeah,
and it's like I said, the end goal is to show us that this guy is unpredictable to regular people. That he's crazy, that he's murderous, he's terrifying. Like, he's supposed to be a guy that if he enters the room, you get out of that goddamn room.
Right. Traditionally, the rest of Batman's rogues gallery is terrified of the Joker.
Right. Like, that's why whenever they have, like, Joker team-ups, like, it doesn't make sense. He wouldn't. He would use people, but, like, the Joker wouldn't be like, the Joker and Bane are going to fight Bat. Like, no, it wouldn't happen.
Right.
Because people like Scarecrow or the Penguin or Harvey Dent, they're going to avoid him.
Right.
Because at any second, Joker's going to turn on him.
Right. They know he's crazy and that he's unreliable.
I mean, look at, like, the bank robbery scene in Dark Knight. He kills every one of his associates.
Yes.
Which that's taken from Joker comic. In that comic book, we have this shot where the Joker has these henchmen, and they find out that on their masks, they had this resin placed under their nose holes that when inhaled, it was toxic. So this idea that he even kills the people that are working for him, he has no dedication. Like I said, he
killed them all because they thought that Harley Quinn was hot.
Oh, I forgot that line.
You missed that scene in the book.
I did, where he's like, she's my girl, and like they're like, oh yeah, she's okay, and he's like, oh, now you're gonna die for it.
You think his mother's name was Martha?
Probably. That's how that movie's gonna end. When Batman finally fights him, he's gonna be like, Batman, my mom's Martha too. He's like, I can't take you to Arkham.
That would be incredible. Ben Affleck, are you listening?
Oh, he does. He actually wrote to me the other day and told me he was.
That's your end game right there. Yep. So that's been our episode on iconic character introductions. We hope you enjoyed it.
Give us one that you don't. Shit. Give us one that you like. What is a big character moment that you enjoy?
Yeah, what's one that you enjoy? You can let us know at POP RANT RADIO.
And don't send us Batman, because we know that.
Facebook, Twitter, and Gmail. You can get a hold of the show on Libsyn, the website that hosts the show, as well as iTunes. If you are listening to us on iTunes, please rate, review, subscribe.
Copy, paste.
And most importantly, tell a friend. If you're liking the show, let somebody else know. It really helps out.
Or just download on their phone. Don't tell them. They'll figure it out.
As always, we'd like to thank Major for the theme songs.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And other than that, that's the show for this week.
Get swifty.
Get swifty.
Just hit a button, Morty. Give me a beat.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. You gotta get swifty. You gotta get swifty in here.
Get Shrek'd.
Get Shrek'd. Nope, and not again.
Watch Shrek-nanigans. Weeknights at 11:45. Eastern, Central, Pacific.
Whatever time it is in Japan right now. 11:45, currently Japan time.
What if it was a Japanese produced show? Like, it was super weird.
Actually, Japan does have a theater play for Star Wars. Apparently it has nothing to do with Star Wars.
That's incredible.
But it uses the poster and everything.
And let all of your personal introductions be better than Jared Leto's in Suicide Squad.
Right. And where's all the rum gone?
Where's all the rum gone? All right.
It's my favorite line from Back to the Future 4.
All right, thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
All right, thanks, bye.